You know that data is important for your organization, but maybe you're stuck in applications such as Excel and you just can't work your data effectively. Maybe you want to automate your processes and you're looking for an application to do so. Maybe you just started an Alteryx and you want to take up your skills up a level. That's precisely what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to introduce you to Alteryx Designer and show you all the very best practices to build your workflows and introduce you to all the fundamental tools that will use in any automation that you build within Alteryx Designer. Now, by the end of this video, you would have achieved a fully fledged Alteryx automation. You'll know precisely what you need to do and how to interact with Alteryx and understand whether or not it's going to provide value to your organization. Now, my name is Ben Banham. I've been utilizing Alteryx since 2016, and I've been utilizing Alteryx with hundreds of different clients. I'm a data consultant with Continuum by profession, and what I've done is I've worked with loads of different people and loads of different projects, and what I'm going to do is condense down my knowledge in utilizing this product for you over the course of this next half an hour or so you can take away my learnings and get the best start in utilizing Alteryx. First things first. You want to click on the link in the description to download Alteryx Designer itself. There's a link in there to get a 30-day free trial, no obligation, no credit card information, nothing like that. Just get a hold of the application itself. You're going to get the most value from this video if you follow along. All the files that you need to build this workflow we're going to do here on this video are included in the installation of Alteryx. So therefore, if you have it, follow along. You're going to have a better experience being hands-on in the tool. Make sure you click on that link in the description below. Get that free version. So open up Alteryx Designer on your machine and this is what you're going to see. Alteryx is a phenomenal tool. It's code free. We drag and drop these tools that you're going to see on the top in the toolbar and build a process, and we're going to automate it. The process we're going to look at today is building a customer sales report, right? So we've got customer status information and we've got the transactions that the customer's been making. We need to prepare the data, join it together and output a report to show the top 10 customers from a variety of different segments within our business, all right? So first things first, the designer interface is split into 4 distinct segments. So I'm going to show you precisely what they are right now. So segment number 1 is this toolbar that we see at the top. You see that? All these lovely colored tools. These are the tools that you're going to click, hold, and drag into the middle part here. They're called the canvas in order to build that automation. Now, each one of these tools are separated by their shape and their color, depending on what sort of function they're going to provide for you in this workflow. So we've got green squares here. They're going to be the in and out category. We've got the blue circles. They're going to be preparation. Purple squares, they're the join, and so on and so forth. You'll see here at the top all the different tool categories that you have available for you here in Alteryx. Once you've found a tool that you're interested in using, you're going to click, hold, and drag the tool onto the second part, right? It's called the canvas. You see it says drop tools here. Once we drag the tool onto the canvas, we can connect them together to fashion our workflow. Once the tool's on the canvas, this third part here on the left-hand side is called the configuration pane. That's where you're going to tell that tool what you're going to want it to do, again in that code-free nature. Once you've built the workflow, configured it, you're going to click onto the Run button, see that blue button at the top right-hand corner, or press Control and R on your keyboard if you like your keyboard shortcuts, and then we're going to have the results grid at the bottom, see that there, become illuminated with the data that we've got in the process. Make sense? All right, let's jump in and go ahead and build the workflow. So starting off, I'm going to select this tool here. As you might imagine, if we're building an Alteryx workflow, we need to get some data in, hey? The input data tool is most commonly going to be your first tool on the canvas. Click, hold, drag, here it comes. Going to drop the tool onto the canvas and place it at the top left-hand side. Once the tool's on the canvas, then I can give it a click. You can see on the left-hand side here, my configuration pane has become available. Let's go ahead and connect to our first file. Right, going to click onto Setup Connection. Here we go. It's going to pop open the Data Connections window. Right, clicking onto the Files part here, what you're going to see is all of the supported file types within Alteryx Designer. You've got your common ones, you've got your XLs in here, your CSVs, your XMLs, they're all here. However, you can also take note that we've got a Data Sources tab available for us as well. So this is where you're going to connect up to systems with the organization. SQL servers, Oracle databases. Have a look down here. We've got SharePoint, OneDrive. We've even got Outlook 365 in here somewhere. There we go. That's it there. Power Automate, Salesforce. My goodness, tell you what, Alteryx can connect to pretty much any data source that you've got. Challenge me on that. Now, as a reminder, if you haven't got the files to follow on this demonstration or Alteryx in the machine, highly recommend clicking on that link in the description below to make sure you download Alteryx, pause the video, get it installed, follow along. You're gonna get the most value out of that, hey? All right, so we're gonna go back to the files. We're gonna select a file, right? If it's the first time that you've opened up Alteryx, go to select file. We're gonna be in this sample data folder. Now, if you've already got Alteryx and you can't find this file, follow along real quick. We're gonna go to this PC, C drive, program files, Alteryx, samples, data, sample data, and we'll be back in the same folder, just in case you haven't put there automatically, right? Now we're in this folder, go ahead and find a file called customers.csv. That's the one we want first of all. Give it a click, we're gonna click onto open, and that's now gonna be within our data set. Now the first thing I'm doing whenever I bring in a new bit of data into Alteryx, I always use this first tool first, right? It's gonna be the browse tool. Always use it first when you get a new bit of data coming into your workflow, right? Click, hold, drag, take a look now what happens when I bring these two tools together, right? I'm gonna have these dotted lines, see that? Appear between the two tools, right? If I drop that tool onto the canvas now, you're gonna see that's what's called a connection established between those two tools, right? If I, for chance, just dropped it a little bit over here, oh my God, no, it's not connected up, don't worry about it. Hover your cursor over this little green node, as it's called. You see these on either side of the tool. They're called nodes, right? Input and output nodes. The output node of this input data tool, click, hold, drag, here it comes. Just gonna snap it into place on the browse tool like so. Simple as that to connect the tools together. Now, congrats, this is pretty much the most basic workflow you could have built. We've got some data and we're gonna have a look at it. What's next for us to do is to execute the process. Have a look at this, blue run button. You see that top right of your screen? Give it a press or press Control and R on your keyboard to go ahead and execute the workflow. Here we go. Now we've got the results grid illuminated for us at the bottom of the screen. So let's take a look at what we've got in this file, right? So we've got customer ID coming in, store number, customer segment, a variety of other information. What we can see here at the top of each one of these results grids columns is this little green bar. See that? Now they might not always be green, be careful. What Alteryx does is it utilizes a super easy to understand traffic light based system to understand the quality of your data. Now green, it's good to go, right? You've got good quality data. And for this beginning demonstration, everything's in good health. However, if I was to click onto this browse tool and then click onto any one of these, I'm gonna recommend you click onto one of the cells within the customer segment field. Give it a click now. What you're gonna see is in the customer profile over here for the browse tool, the configuration pane, we're gonna have a data profile specifically for that individual column. Now, this is the reason why I brought the browse tool on first of all, because it allows me, little binoculars, hey, it allows me to take a closer look at my data set. Right, okay, so I can see here, here's the traffic lights. See that? Got green, we got yellow, and we got red, okay? Null and not okay, right? So if you see any yellow parts to the top of the bar here, that indicates you've got null data within your data set. You're gonna wanna clean that up, and I'm gonna show you precisely how to do that in a moment's time. If you've got red parts to these bars, hold on a minute, that indicates you've got not okay data. What that means is maybe we've got a space at the start at the end of the word, known as a trailing or leading white space. Maybe we've got two spaces in there. We've got tab characters, all that sort of stuff, right? Alteryx recognizes it straight away, flashes red at you, and we're gonna have to clean that data up. Take a look at this browse profile over here. You're going to see a variety of other information that's useful for you. Scroll down to the bottom, and the benefit of having this browse tool as well is seeing that you can see, okay, I've got 4 customer segments, and I can immediately see the split of the data between the 2,600 records that I've got across the entire data set. All right, now if we're back in Alteryx Designer now, you can see that I've actually got this little box between the two tools. It's called the connection progress box, and it shows me 2 very important figures. The first one at the top, 2678, stands for 2,678 records within the data set. Beneath is the data set size, 382 kilobytes worth of data. Now, if you're not seeing this, don't worry about it. Go ahead and click on a blank space, right? See my cursor, click on a blank space, and when I do so, the configuration pane doesn't show a tools configuration, no, it shows the overall workflows configuration now, right? So clicking onto here, I'll have a look for connection progress, and I bet you it says showing when running, right? Go ahead and change that to show. Nice, all right? Rerun your workflow, and now you're gonna have this connection progress box up on your workflow all the time. And that's one of my top tips. Really important to track that information throughout your flow. Okay, so what we need to do in this data set is we need to answer 4 questions about our data. I always ask myself 4 distinct questions whenever I bring my data in. Number 1, how's my data quality? Right? So we've just had a look at this in the Browse tool, and I've had a look and I see the data quality here for the bars at the bottom is all looking nice and green, so therefore my data quality is in good shape. But don't worry about it, if your data is not in good shape, I'm going to show you how to clean it up in just a moment's time. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, do I need all these fields? Well, you can have a look at the top of the results grid over here. See, it says 12 of 12 fields. That tells me I've got 12 columns with my data set. You know what? If I scroll across in this data set, I can actually see I've got a lot of address information. For this particular report, you know what? I don't really care about the address. It's important information, of course, but for this particular process, it serves no purpose for me. So I'm going to chop that off, right? It's going to reduce the weight or the size of my data set. And if I reduce that size as early as I can in the workflow, it's going to whiz on through the whole application so much quicker. So I'm going to drop those fields in a moment's time. That's question 2. Question 3 is, right, do I need all these records? Okay, so I know that I've got 2,600 records here, but to explain a little bit more, we've got this responder field. It says yes or no. That details whether these clients or customers here have actually responded to a marketing campaign of ours or not. Now, this is to be a report for our marketing team to say, right, we want to fire off emails to these people because we reckon they're spending a lot of money, so they're going to respond to our marketing campaigns. However, we don't want to send that marketing campaign to people who already responded, hey? So therefore, we need to get rid of the records where the responder is equal to yes, reducing down that record count. Question 3. Question number 4 is, how about our data types, right? It's called the metadata or data types. We need to make sure those are being allocated to the fields correctly. Now, I know CSV file is a plain text file, so I know what's going to happen here, but go ahead and look for yourself. Do you see this top right corner? Got data and metadata, right? Go ahead and click on the metadata option. It just changes the view in that results grid. So now you can see all the names of the fields you've got and the type of data that it is. We have a look at this. We've got 3 main types of data you need to be aware of in Alteryx. Number 1, string data, right? Text. We've got text data, and as you can see here, by the type in this results grid, all the fields are coming through as text. Number 2, we've got numbers, right? Simple as that. I'm going to show you the different types of numbers a little bit later. And number 3, dates. That's it. Text, numbers, and dates. Those are the 3 types of data you're going to work with here in Alteryx. Have a look at this type drop down here, this little column. I'm going to see all the data is coming in as a string format. Flicking back, I can see, okay, yes, some of these fields, such as the ones I got highlighted there, should legitimately be text. However, have a look at this, customer ID, store number. At the moment, that's being stored as text. I reckon that should be stored as a number, right? So we're going to go ahead and change those data types up. Remember those 4 questions. Okay, so bringing us across, let's go ahead and answer resolve question number 2. Do we need all these fields? We figured out we don't, right? So we're going to go ahead and remove some of the fields we don't need. The tool for the job is going to be this one here. You find it? It's called the select tool. Find it in your favorites bar, or you can tell by its circular shape and its blue color, it's also part of the preparation category, and I can find it in there as well. I'm going to stick in the favorites bar to keep it nice and simple for this demo, right? Click, hold, drag, and what I can do, have a look at this. I'm just not just connected up to here, I'm actually dropping it onto the line between the 2 adjacent tools. Now you can see it's merged itself between the 2 other tools, and have a look in the configuration pane, and this is what we're going to tell the tool what we wanted to do, right? So in here, we can see we've got a variety of different checkboxes and all of our fields names, right? What we can do, simple as this, just say, I don't want this one, nor this one. Here we go. I'm going to go from address all the way down to lon for longitude and say, I don't want these fields. Just simply as deselecting them. Nice. Okay. Have a look at this though. Hold on a minute. We've got unknown field. I'll tell you what, if you scroll towards the right-hand side of your data set, I bet you're not going to find a field called unknown. So you might be asking yourself, what is this unknown field or what does it represent? Well, the way that Alteryx works is when I press the run button, Alteryx opens up that CSV file, pulls down all the data, and then now stores it within Alteryx's application memory. It's important to know that because the data we see represented here in the results grid is not actually within Alteryx itself, right? It's actually a copy of the data that is in Alteryx, and when I run the workflow, pop it in, comes in, it's sat in here. Now, the unknown field is, right, when I've run the workflow, this is the data in here. But when I run it again, let's say someone was really sneaky, okay? Someone on the team went in and added in, let's say, a middle name field, which is not there right now. But when I rerun the workflow, opens up the file once again, oh, hold on a minute. There's a field in here that was unknown to me before. Now it brings it into the workflow, and selecting or deselecting the unknown there simply tells Alteryx, do I want these fields that were not there last time that may potentially be here next time? So what I'm going to do here is deselect the unknown, therefore telling Alteryx I do not want to bring any new fields coming on through next time I run the workflow. However, there could be examples where you might want to do that, where for example, every month you might have a new field coming on in. And next month, when we're actually running this workflow next month, that field doesn't exist at the moment when we're developing the workflow. So therefore, you're going to want to bring it in next time. Just have a think about that and whether you want to bring the unknown across. Okay, so I'm going to deselect that unknown right now. Here we go. I'm going to remove that. And what I can do is, even in this same tool, is take the opportunity to update the data types. Okay? So we identified customer ID and store number should be updated to be a numeric or number data type. You can see we've got a type drop down right here. Go ahead and give it a click. Now, I know I said there's 3 different types of data, and there are, but there's a variety of different subcategories. Let's whiz through them very quickly for your benefit. We've got the bool, that stands for Boolean, which is basically a true, false, yes, no, 1, 0 type of field, right, type of data. We've got the byte and all the integers here, so int 16 to 32 to 64, and that's essentially a whole number, right? An integer is a whole number, and you might consider the byte as an integer 8. And simply the number towards the right-hand side dictates the size of the field, right? So you might say, hold on a minute, well, why don't I just chuck all my numbers into integer 64? Would that not work? And you're right, it would work. But imagine this, cast your mind off. I'm going on holiday, right? I'm bringing in, I'm going on a nice sunny holiday and go to this luxurious beach resort, all inclusive. Don't need to bring much, apart from my fancy swim trunks, eh? All right, so I'm going on holiday. I've got my swim trunks I need to pack, but I've got my suitcase, it's like this big. Huge suitcase, chucking in the trunks, zipping it up, wheeling it across. Gosh, there's so much extra baggage that I don't need to carry with me. I could have just used a nice little bag this size to put my trunks in, and that's what I could use here with a variety of different number fields. Even though you could put all your numbers in a 64, do you need that amount of space, right? Make sure you try and keep that field size as compact as possible, keeping your dataset size down low, and it's going to whiz through this application a little bit quicker. So therefore, have a look at my results grid. I can see that the data I've got in here looks to be pretty small numbers. I'm not going to get over about 999. So therefore, I can confidently put myself to an integer 16. Take a look at the Alteryx help documentation online if you want to know the exact numbers that fit into these fields. All right, the rest of the fields look pretty good, but there's so much more I can do in the select tool. I'm going to take the opportunity here as well to rename one of the fields. Customer ID is what it's called in the data set on the source or the system, but when I'm creating this report, maybe I want to have a little bit more of a plain English name, hey? I'm going to go ahead and put in customer number. So go ahead and follow the same. Let's change our customer ID field and rename that to customer number. All right, very good. Control R, going to run my workflow, or of course, press the blue run button at the top of the screen. Either one, doesn't matter. Now have a look at this. I've made sure to click on the green input to this select tool right here. All right, so I can see the data coming in. I'm going to emphasize to you the importance of the input and the output nodes now on these tools. So the input node, that little green icon on the left-hand side of the select tool, that's going to show you the data coming in from the source, right? Now you can see here, I've still got my address field, still got the customer ID. However, have a look in the results grid. I've got input and output, right? I'm going to flick to the output. I can now see the result of this tool and what's happened after the configuration has been applied. That's one of the unique selling points of Alteryx is every single step along the way, you can see how your data is transforming. Here's the input, here's the output. I can flick between that and every other tool along the workflow. In comparison to other technologies, when essentially you've got your data set here, you run a script, you get the data out the other end, and you're like, hold on a minute, it doesn't look quite right. What's happened in the middle? You go through a massive debugging exercise, taking out little bits of your script and run them in isolation. Oh God, it's so messy, hey? Don't worry about it. In Alteryx, super simple. Use your input and output nodes all the way along, and you can see precisely how that data is being manipulated across the entire process. All right, so this data is looking pretty good. However, I've got to get rid of some of those records. Remember that? I need to get rid of where the responder is equal to yes. So I'm going to bring in a new tool, right? I'm going to drag this across a little bit, my little browse tool, give myself some space to work here. I'm going to bring in the new tool. It's called the filter tool. Some people call it the Pink Floyd tool. Maybe you recognize why. Going to drop it onto the canvas here. Got my input coming in. And I'm going to say, basic or custom filter. Right, I'm going to go for the basic one right now. And effectively what happens in this filter tool is I specify a condition. And if the records in my data set match that condition, coming out T for true. If I don't, they're coming out the F for false. You see that? This filter tool here has got two outputs going on. So we're going to specify a basic filter now. Go ahead and click on the column drop down. I'm going to select my responder fields and make sure that equals no. There you go. Nice. Simple as that. Okay, so I can go ahead and run my workflow and have a look now. If I want to have a look now and see if I got data coming out the top. I've got my 2,400 instead of my 2,600, and I filtered out those records. You might think, hold on a minute, where are those responding to the yes records gone? Remember, they're coming out of the F for false output. I can see here's all those responder equal to yes records. Now, in this process, I'm just going to leave that F for false anchor and not do anything with it. However, just imagine you can use this filter tool just to split the data up, process them differently, and bring them back later on, right? So remember, this filter tool doesn't get rid of the records, it simply splits them up into two separate work streams, they're called. Okay, my data is looking pretty good. I'm nearly there. However, oh God, look at this. First name, last name, fully capitalized. For my report, I want to make it look a little bit cleaner, a little bit slicker, hey? Now, this is a really nice segue to introduce you to a fantastic new tool, which is called the Data Cleansing tool. It does so much. Have a look at this. Dragging it onto the canvas, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and select the fields I'm going to want to cleanse over here. I'm just going to go for none. Select my first and last name because those are the fields I want to cleanse in this particular instance. Now, remember what I said about the traffic lights, eh? We've got the yellow part, we've got the red part, the traffic lights and the data quality. If you've got any yellow parts to your data quality, you've got some null data, all you need to do, drag on down the data cleansing tool and select these two options under replace nulls. That's it. And that gets rid of that part for you. Replace them with blank for string, replace it with a 0 for a number field. However, if you've got any of that red part to data quality, we've got some not okay characters in here, so it's those trailing white spaces, all you need to do, again, drop down the data quality, cleansing tool. Here we go. I need to select these first two options under remove unwanted characters, leading trailing white space, tabs, line breaks, and duplicate white space, and that gets rid of it. Eliminates all that bad quality data within your data set with a click of 2 buttons. Super simple. Okay, now what I want to do here with this first and last name field is actually go down a little bit and modify the case. I'm going to change that to a title case, like so. Cool, here we go, run your workflow. Have a look at your browse tool now, and you can see that we've got our customer data in and it's prepared and it's good to go. I can see we've got our blue circle tools, the preparation tools coming in. We've dropped the fields, removed the records, cleanse the data. Right? So we're not just taking the data and starting to join it straight away. No, we're bringing the data, we're bringing that browse tool, asking ourselves the 4 questions. You remember those 4 questions? Number 1, what's our data quality look like? Number 2, do we need all those fields? Number 3, do we need all the records? And number 4, what are those data types? And within just these 4 tools, we've answered and satisfied the requirements for all 4 of those questions. Now we're ready to move on to our next data set. So we need to get one more input data tool on a canvas. Here we go. Click, hold, drag. Here comes one more input data tool. I'm going to put it just beneath the other one I've got. Set up that connection. Let's go to Files. Select a file. Now you should, if you just drop down that tool before, be in this sample data folder. We're going to find a file called transactions.xml. Go ahead and find that in your results grid here. Click on to open. And again, remember that first tool we always use? It's that browse tool, hey? Click, hold, drag, here comes the browse tool. Click on to run. Let's take a look at our data set. Answering those 4 questions once again. How's the quality of our data set? Looking pretty good, hey? Green bars across all the way across the results grid. We'll ask ourselves the next question. Do I need all these columns? You know what? I reckon I do in this field, in this data set. Do I need all these records? Well, hold on a minute. This is actually transactions made in a period of our business. Yeah, I want to make sure I keep all these transactions, hey? And then finally, what's the data types like? Well, we know we can go to our metadata view. Remember that? The top right, the results grid, click on the metadata. Here we go. Oh, goodness, look at this. All coming in a string. Once again, we need to change those data types. Okay, that's the first action we're taking on this workflow. Those first 4 questions dictate to you the first actions you need to take on the inputs of your data. So we're going to change the data types. We know we've got the tool for the job. Hey, we've done it just before. Happens to be that select tool. Click, hold, drag. Here comes one more select tool onto the canvas. You know what? I'm going to change my transaction to be a integer, 16. That looks pretty good. I'm going to go for customer ID for integer 16. And I happen to know by experience that this order ID is a little bit too big to fit in the integer 16. So you know what? I'm going to make that a nice integer 32 size and bump that up a little bit. Cool. The other two look to be, oh, pardon me. Actually, we know what? I forgot. We need a sales field, of course. We need to change that to be a double, right? So a double is actually the exact number. Integer is a whole number. It rounds up or down. However, this sales value is actually the amount that the customer purchased for their product. We don't want to round that up or down, hey? We want the exact value. That is what the double data type is going to give you, okay? It's a numeric value that's not rounded up or down, just the exact value. All right, cool. Looking good. Rerun my workflow. My data is in good health. Hopefully we can chop that out. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and now going to summarize this data up a little bit. It's in good shape. I've answered the 4 questions. Let's sum it up, hey? Next tool we're going to need is this, the Summarise tool. Whoa, it's a new color, which means it's a part of a new category. Right? It's part of this transformation category. Remember, you can find it in there as well. Let's stick in favorites, okay? Click, hold, drag. Here comes the Summarise. Dropping it on. Again, just see how simple this is, right? Compared to coding. I'm just clicking, dragging, dropping onto canvas, a few little checkboxes, drop-down menus. Super simple, right? This is the application that business people and technology can use simultaneously, because business people within line of business teams, they know the process, hey? But they're just manually doing it, or they don't have the tools. This is the tool for them. All right, so here in the Summarise tool, what we're going to do is we're going to click onto the customer ID field. Make sure that's selected in blue. We're going to add an action, and first we're going to group by. Because if you look in the results grid right now, we can see we've got multiple transactions being made by customer ID 3. Great for business. However, have a look at my customer data set at the top by clicking on this browse tool up here once again. I can see that I've got 1 record for customer ID 3. Of course I do, right? I've only got 1 record coming here for Julia. However, if I try and join these data sets together without first summarizing the transactions, what's going to happen? I'm going to duplicate that data at the top. I'm going to have 6 records of Julia. I don't want that one at all. I only want 1 record for Julia. I want to see the total transactions that she's made within this reporting period. So therefore, need to take the step to summarize that data. That's the importance of this one here. And grouping by the customer ID, that means I'm going to get 1 record per customer now. If I just go ahead and run the workflow, we're not done just yet, but have a look at this, right? I'm going to flick to that output node, which I can do by clicking on this little green icon here on the right-hand side of the tool, or I can do it on the results grid. I'll click on this output part right here. And here we go. This is the result. I've now got 1 record per customer. Looking good, but I'm missing some information, of course. That being how much they spent, hey? That's what I need. So head on back to the config pane. We're going to go for the sales field, give it a click. We're going to go for ads, and we're going to go for this one here. It's called the sum. Right? Click onto the sum option, and you'll see it down here. It's creating a new field for us called sum sales. Now, sum sales makes a bit of sense, but again, if I'm creating this report for someone else to take forward, I'm going to want to rename that field. Don't worry, you don't need another select tool on the canvas. We can go ahead and just rename it in the Summarise tool right here. Have a look at this. I'm going to click onto here and call this total sales, like so. All right, now there's plenty of other things we could do here. For example, if I go to my input now, which is quite handy, if I'm configuring a tool, having a look at the input means I can see the result of the data grid down here of the data coming into the tool whilst I'm preparing it. Helps you so much more rather than having this output selected. I'm almost configuring the tool blind then, hey? Make it easier for yourself. Click on the input and you can see the data you're working with whilst you're configuring the tool. Okay, what I could do here as well, I've got an order ID and maybe I want to say, okay, they spent X amount with us, but I want to see how many individual orders did that comprise of, right? So if I grab my order ID field right here, give it a click, and I can go for account option. And that's going to now tell me, if I rename this field in the results grid, number of orders. There we go, NO orders, number of orders. Go ahead, click Control R or the blue run button at the top right of your screen. And now look at this data set. Whew, that's nice and tidy, hey? I've got my customer ID, I've got the total amount they spent with us and the number of orders they've made in order to get to that total spend. Brilliant. Look at this. We've got 2 data sets in, fully prepared and good to go already, hey? Nice. All right, so what we're going to do next is I'm just going to drag and highlight. See this? I'm going to highlight both of my browse tools like so. I'm then going to press the delete key and remove them from my workflow because they're really important at the very start of your workflow to answer those 4 questions. But now we've done that, we don't need them in our flow anymore. So let's remove them, ties up that canvas a little bit. All right, now we're moving on to the 3rd out of 4 stages here. The first 2 stages, we're getting this 2 data sets. The 3rd is to join them together. We've got to bring them together. So here's our customer name and information, and we're going to now bring on and append the total spend and the number of orders together. The 4th and final part is getting that data out into a nice report. So let's join them together, shall we? You might have guessed it if you have a look at the results grid here or the toolbar at the top. But the join tool for the job. Now do us a favor real quick. Click, hold, drag, and place the join tool not connected to anything. You see that? I don't want this. I don't want that. I want my join tool not connected to anything just for the time being because this tool is extremely powerful, but it can be a little bit of a trip hazard for new users. Now we've got 2 inputs and 3 outputs, hey? Don't worry about it. They're all labeled. It got L, R, and an LJR. L and R stands for left and for right. And the J output here stands for join. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my data cleansing tool, click, hold, drag, here it comes, plugging it into the left-hand side of the join. Here comes my Summarise, click, hold, drag into the right-hand side, giving a click onto my join tools now so I can see the configuration in the configuration window. And now we're going to configure how we want to join these 2 data sets together. Take note, in the results grid, I can flick between the left and the right inputs to visualize the 2 data sets that I'm attempting to join here. So having a look at those data sets, I'm going to figure out what field or fields could I use to join them together. We know it's got to be the customer number, hey? That's the field that relates to both these tables together. So therefore, head on up to the drop down. Here we go, customer number. I'm going to go join it to the customer ID field that we had at the bottom. Nice. Okay, cool. Now, what I'm going to invite you to do is to right click onto the join tool and select this option. You see that there? It's add all browsers. Now this is a super secret tip that not a lot of people know in Alteryx, but it's what I figured out in my experience in using the tool. Take a look at this. Go ahead and run your workflow now. So let's now analyze what we've got coming out of this join tool. The reason why I've added on those 3 browse tools to the other side of the join tool is now I can see, have a look at this, the record count coming out each one of the 3 outputs. And each one of these 3 numbers means something very important for us in the workflow. I'm going to tell you exactly what they mean. You need to consider that when you're building your own flow, right? So left, J, and R. Tell you what, if I click back onto the join tool now, I'm actually going to bring up this little diagram here. Maybe you might cast your mind back to maths class at school. You might remember these, hey? Venn diagrams. All right, so what this says is this is the left-hand side, this is the right-hand side. The left output will show us when it's only in left, not in right. The right output, the opposite. It's only in the right-hand side, not in the left. And the J output, the one in the middle, shows us where both those circles overlap. So it's in the left-hand side and in the right together, all right? So have a look at this. Remember, left-hand side's customers data set, right-hand side's transactions, yeah? So what we've got in here is, say we can see the left-hand side coming in 2248, J output 2248. And the left output here is 0. That tells me all of my customers have joined to a transaction record. Fantastic, nice. Okay, however, have a look at this. 2,703 coming in at the bottom, that right-hand input. Have a look at the right output. 455 records. Oh my God. So that is telling me that I've got 455 customers making transactions that have not joined to my customers data set. This is why the join tool is really powerful, but also a common trip hazard because new users would just join our data together and carry on with the process. And they haven't realized they've actually dropped off a large amount of their data at the bottom. Now you need to ask yourself, Is this an issue? Yes or no, right? Because you might be happy with that. You might say, you know what, I've got these 455 people here making transactions, but you know what, I only really care about the ones that join between those sources. That's absolutely fine. However, you could be saying to yourself, hold on a minute, if I click on the bottom browse tool right here, I can see these customers have got customer ID. And if they've got customer ID, they've got to be within my source system. And if they're not joined to my source system, that's an issue. Right? So we need to ask ourselves the question, are we happy with anything coming out the left or the right-hand side of these joins? Now let's just imagine that we're not happy with these customers joining out here, right? Cast your mind forward a little bit, right? We're building the Alteryx workflow right here. We can see visually the numbers coming out of these join tools. However, the automated nature of this product means that when we want to run this process the next period, next month, next week, whatever it is, right? I want to open up Alteryx, I want to press run and get my data out in seconds. I don't want to go through this workflow and start to scrutinize my join. Okay, let's have a look. Do I have any left, right outputs here? It takes away from the automated nature of this product and the value it's trying to deliver for you. So therefore, I'm going to introduce you to another secret tip, full of secret tips here, hey, that I've learned. This is going to teach you how to validate this join and make sure that you're alerted if any records come out that you're not comfortable with. Check this out. So I'm going to go ahead and now utilize a test tool, right? Again, this is a very unknown thing for beginners, at least in Alteryx, but it's very, very crucial if you're going to be building gold standard automations in this tool. Click, hold, drag. Going to remove these free browse tools now. Very useful to show me the outputs, but I don't need them anymore. Here we go. I'm going to go to my search bar. Search bar is a fantastic resource. And if you're looking for a particular tool and you don't know what it is, what it's called, you can even do this. Hey, we're going to look for the test tool in a moment, but you just say, I've done my join tool here. And if I'm looking to do a join, I don't know what it is. I'm like, I'm good at Excel and you know what? I just want to do a VLOOKUP. What do? Just type in, look, VLOOKUP. Oh, there you go. Join tool's the one for you. It's smart as that. Just put in what you're looking for and it'll tell you the best tool. It's also got some Alteryx community resources and help documentation referred to there as well. Okay, so let's clear that out. We're gonna go for the test tool. Give it a click, type in test, and we're gonna go for this one here. See, it's got a little gray circle, plus and minus in there, yeah? We can actually click, hold, and drag from the search bar onto the canvas. Here we go. Make sure, it's a little bit fiddly, got 3 outputs here, that we're connected to the R output, yeah? Because this is the one we want to validate. This is the one we want to make sure there's no records coming out. And if there are, we want to know about it, hey? Okay, so we've got a test tool on the canvas. Have a look at the configuration pane. We can see the add button right here. Give that one a click. And what we're going to do is put in a test name. Now, make sure this test name makes sense. Don't call it test 1. Or test A, whatever it might be, because if this test fails, right, we have records coming out as output, it's going to show us this test name. So you need to make sure this test name is as descriptive as possible. I'm going to say transactions not joined to customers. There we go. That's descriptive enough to me. If this flags up, okay, I know what's going on. I can sort it out. Okay, so the test type I'm going to go for is the record count needs to match a specific value, and that value is 0. Right? I want it to equal 0. This is what I want to see. Okay, clicking OK here. Go ahead and rerun your workflow. Oof, hold on a minute. We've got an error in the flow. Don't worry about it. This is an error that we've engineered. And this is the way that you can validate that your join gives you the data you want to see every single time. And if it doesn't, you're going to be notified about it. Again, you're going to skip that common trip hazard for new users for potentially missing data out of your join tools. Okay, so we're going to carry on building this workflow, and hopefully you're going to still just have 1 error. Don't worry about it. If you've got 2 errors, maybe check out and rewind the video. We shouldn't have 2. Don't just got 1. All right, here we go. So we've got the J part of this join tool now, and I can see that I've got our data joined together. Looking good, hey? Here's my customer information, and here's that transaction information. Hold on a minute. I've got customer number, and I've got the customer ID. Right, well, if I'm joining on these fields, I don't need them twice, eh? Let's go back into the join tools configuration, give it a click, and I'm going to deselect write customer ID. Therefore, I don't bring in that column twice. Don't need it, hey? Very good. Okay, let's run the workflow once again. Having a look at the output. Perfect. This is the data I want to see. We're really nearly done. We've got the data. Now we need to find out who are the top 10 customers by their total spend for each one of the customer segments that I've got here. So the first tool we need after this join tool, heading back to my favorites palette, we need the sort tool first of all. It's important, if I will find the top 10, that I sort my data set in a descending fashion by that total sales first. Here we go, click, hold, drag. Here comes the sort tool, to the J part. I'm gonna select under here, my name. I'm gonna go for the total sales and make sure that is in a descending fashion. Very good, okay. Gonna click my run on my workflow now, and hopefully I can see that I've got Diane King as number 1. All right, 61,000, nice. All right, now I've got this in a descending fashion, let's find the top 10. And that is gonna be with a tool which is not in the favorites, but we're gonna dive into the preparation category right now. I want one of these, it's called the sample tool. All right, click, hold, and drag. Here comes the sample tool onto the canvas. And I'm gonna say, I want the first n rows where n, see down here, is equal to 10. Right? So that therefore means first 10 rows. Now the fact that I've sorted my data in a descending fashion by the total sales first of all means that my first 10 are going to be my top spenders. Now I want the top 10 for each segment, hey? So make sure under the group by option here, I group by the customer segment. That means I'm getting top 10 for each customer segment. Brilliant. Okay, let's run this workflow now. Hopefully coming out of this sample tool, we're gonna have 40 records. Have a look at that. That's the top 10 for each one of our customer segments. Okay, we're so close to finishing. Here we go. All we need is one more tool on this canvas. Probably imagine what it's gonna be, hey? Of course, heading back to the favorites, it's gonna be the output data tool. Of course it is, hey? We've got the data still in Alteryx, so you need to get it out of here so people can start to use it. Right, so here comes the output data tool, dragging it onto the canvas, placing it just after that sample. I'm gonna go for a setup connection. And then here under files, you can see all of the supported file types that you can write out to. And remember, this is not an exhaustive list. Check out the data sources. You can write to SQL Server, write to Oracle, and all of these other sources. And bear in mind, you can read and write from any open API that you've got access to as well. Okay, going back to files, I'm gonna put out a nice Excel file, hey? Select on Microsoft Excel right here. And then I'm gonna determine a nice way that I can put this out. Here we go. I'm gonna put in here on my desktop, my documents, I'm gonna go ahead and put in customer sales report. There we go. Now it's gonna ask me for a sheet. And I said, hold on a minute. Before you write the report, we don't just want all the data out in one sheet, no. Could you build your automation in a way where you put out the top 10 for each segment in their own worksheet in the workbook? And I'm gonna say, of course we can, all right? So just click here, click OK on sheet 1. Now, here's a trip hazard for you. Careful of this. Again, another tip coming in. Option number 3, output options, says create new sheet by default, right? So if you run your workflow, it's gonna work. Run it again, you're gonna get an error in the workflow because it says, I can't create a new sheet, it already exists, hey? So therefore, I recommend changing option 3 here from create new sheet to overwrite sheet or range. What it's gonna do, it's gonna create a sheet if it doesn't exist, but then override it if it does. Okay, now this is how we create multiple outputs from a single output data tool, i.e. I wanna have 4 separate sheets in this Excel workbook, each with their own individual customer segment. Take a look at the bottom of the data configuration here for this output data tool. I'm gonna select the take file/table name from a field. Now I'm gonna change this first big drop down here to change file/table name. And when we're talking in terms of Excel, table name means worksheet name, right? So I'm gonna change the worksheet's name now based upon a field in my data set. And that's what I select at that bottom drop down. So make sure we change this from customer number to customer segment. Nice, all right. Here we go, you ready? This is it. We built the workflow, one final Control and R, gonna run the process now. And if I click onto the output data tool, have a look in the results grid. I don't see the data, but no, I see these 4 hyperlinks. And you can actually click onto one of these little links and it's gonna pop open the file that you've just created with your first automation. Here we go, have a look at this. This is now the report that we've got out, our top 10 customers coming in for each one of these customer segments that we see here. Fantastic. This is what I needed. So if I flick back out to Alteryx real quick, just to summarize, this is the process that you've just built. So this perhaps might not be a process that is new or innovative for your business. Maybe it's one that you're doing already, right? We have to produce this customer sales report every week or every month, right? However, someone has to go into these different systems, export the data, open them up in Excel, copy and paste them together, do the formulas, do the pivot tables, do the VLOOKUPs. Then you're gonna have to copy and paste it into 4 separate worksheets, file, save as, and put the correct date on it, everything like that, hey? Now, it's not a massively complex process, but it can take someone 45 minutes to an hour to do that every single week. Take a look at this, right? We built this in Alteryx. Next time we want to go ahead and run that process, click on to run. Oh my God, have a look at this. Down the bottom of your screen, finished running in 0.6 seconds. That is lightning fast. I'm taking an hour's worth of work and putting it to less than a second. That is the value you're going to receive if you take a look at Alteryx and embed it in your business processes. Now, if you followed along and you wanted to get involved, again, reminder, that link is in the description. Get a 30-day free trial, rewind the video, and go ahead and re-watch and follow along. That's where you're going to get the most value. Now, at Continuum, we do this day in, day out. This is what we're made for. This is our lifeblood, hey? We do it all the time. Now, if you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. We will respond to them. And if you want a one-to-one consultation on your specific scenario and how we can help Alteryx get integrated for you, again, the description has all the details and how you can get in contact with us. Now, this Alteryx Designer is the very first step in order to improve the maturity of your use of data within your business. However, that data maturity journey is such a wider piece, and what we've done is actually created a video specifically outlining the 4 distinct stages that your organization needs to follow if it's going to become more mature and utilize its data more effectively. If that sounds interesting, you're going to want to have a look at this video where I detail precisely what those stages are and how you can get involved.